Do you hear
Yeah,
me?
we are using the Zoom. Yeah, I do hear you. I came in and I was stuck on a window because it was like Zoom would like to access local devices on your network. Zoom can do this or it can blah blah. I was like, why does Zoom need to access devices on my local network? And you said something, so I thought you were responding to me, but I had the volume down too low.
Ah, gotcha. All right, let's test this real quick.
Oh no,
Oh,
you went away when you
good,
said test this real, and then
good, good,
Oop.
good.
All right, hold
I,
on 1 sec. Hold on, watch your
yeah,
ears too, because I don't know if this is gonna beep. Okay, it did not beep. Cool.
it did not beep.
Yeah. Well, I'm on the H6. That's the one I have configured for, at home recording all the time.
Oh, recording all the time, huh?
Well, it's the audio interface of the day. The H4 has gone into the backpack as, emergency podcast on the road situation,
Right. Hey,
along with the Shure Beta 8780.
I don't recognize that voice that I hear in my headphones.
There's somebody you hear in your headphones?
I was talking about you.
Ah, yeah. Listen,
Welcome
man.
back.
So what's going on? Like this guy did a whole show without me. Like this is a thing that has never happened before either. Like that's what's funny. Like in the normal course of things, if it would have been a regular show like this, we were just me and you, we would have just rescheduled, right?
Yep.
Like, oh, we'll move it to another day or later on, or I'll be back about 10, Mike. Would that be too late? But because we had scheduled a guest and we're very respectful. I mean, I'm not saying Mike is not, but I'm just going to speak for myself specifically. I'm very self-conscious about other people's time.
Mm.
So if I have booked a time with you on a calendar, it really makes me feel bad to have to push a meeting back with somebody else. Except Mike. I don't just text Mike 5 minutes before we're supposed to record. Hey man, can we do it tomorrow? But everybody else,
Yeah.
like, I really hate screwing with their calendars like that. So because we had a guest, I just called Mike up. I said, look, man, I'm not going to make it. I know I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to even make it within a reasonable, push the show back 15 or 20 minutes time. So just go ahead and do the show, which was a good show. And here's the benefit of me not having been on the show is I actually had to listen to it to know what happened.
That's a weird feeling, though, isn't it? Like,
We've done 90 episodes. This is episode 91, and 90 is the first one I listened to because I wasn't there.
yeah. Every
For
once in a
everybody
while, you'll
listening,
tune into one just to see how it sounds, but you don't actually listen to the whole show. It's like 5 minutes, I'm guessing.
Yeah. And that's only when you're like, oh, I did something weird here, or let me see what that sounded like.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I still haven't gone back and actually listened to this show where you were on the wrong microphone.
That's surprising. I figured you would have listened to that by now.
Yeah, well, I kind of know what to expect. And,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
Look, the hard part for me, for people listening, Mike knows this, but for people who are not super familiar with us like that, I'm sort of the feeling that if I was on the show, I don't really need to listen to the show because I was there. And I also know how Mike is going to edit. Now, it's different, and I haven't really been on anybody else's show because I'm not Michael Babcock. But if I were on other people's shows as much as he is, I probably would go back and listen to those only because I don't know the editor, personally in some cases. So I know how Mike is going to edit generally. I know what he's going to cut out. I know what he's going to leave in. Sometimes he might surprise me if I do, listen to a clip of a show of like, oh, he left that in.
Sometimes I surprise myself. I had an edit that I was doing for Marty on, I was editing on Christmas Eve, like finishing up. No, it was the day before Christmas Eve, so Monday. And he's like talking, he accidentally called it a screensaver. So he's like, people using a screensaver. And then he pauses and goes, Mike, edit that out. I meant. And then he goes, people using a screen reader. And apparently I heard that. I marked it in Reaper. I see the mark in Reaper right now. I just never went back and did it. So, every once in a while accidents happen, but we try our best not to.
But that is why I don't go back and listen to the show. But also I'm one of those people that doesn't and has never, except on one occasion, and it may have been like 2015 or something. I think because Mike kept nudging me, like, man, you really should Google yourself. But I only Google myself once in life. Like Mike has Googled me more than I've Googled myself, which is weird.
Yeah. That's how I do my background checks on people, just Google. I'm going to start using Chat GPT to do my background checks.
Oh man, wait, I should do that now. I gotta hire people. I should, just go ahead and set up an API shortcut that says, run this person and find everything you can. The only problem with
Yeah,
Chat
but then you're going to
GPT
have to
now,
cross-reference it because we both know ChatGPT can be like, he was a murderer from 2004, and then you'll look it up and there's no reference to it, or
yeah, you're like the kid's like 18, so like, how is that
right,
even possible?
right. So
The other thing I was about to say, the only problem with Chat GPT doing that or any other language models I'm familiar with is they're not going to search like the dark web where all the good
yeah,
information really is that is
Mhm.
verified because they stole it from, it's stolen information or uh what's the word I'm looking for? Not excavated, exfiltrated information from, like, I don't know, the federal government's HR system, for example.
Nope, it's just
Equifax.
going to do a basic Google search, read through the pages for the top 10 results, and then come back and give you a summary of that information.
Yeah. So listen, and I'm not going to name the person that I think would actually have this information for reasons of plausible deniability. But if anybody has, a dark web LLM, reach out.
I bet you could probably set something up with one of those Olama, like Olama
I mean, here's the problem though.
models.
Like I've other than probably, I think I was still on Windows the first time I like actually went digging for
Mm,
dark web content, like using the Onion browser. I
Tor.
did try it
Yeah.
out on Mac, but the Onion browser, which is what most people use to get to the dark web content, and dark web is not necessarily, all drugs and selling people's data, but
Right.
uh, I did try it on the Mac in like 2013, 2014, but the Onion browser, which is what most people, it's the only one that I'm familiar with, or the Tor browser, is based on Firefox. So we know the history of Firefox on the Mac. Now it's pretty good now to where that's where most of my Mac AT guy stuff gets done at is in Firefox.
hmm
But 10 years ago, yeah, you may as
That
well
was
not even
not
bother
the case.
downloading Firefox. Like don't do it. It's not going to help you at all.
So, what did you think of the show?
I thought it was a good show.
Good.
You
I thought
guys,
of some questions I should have asked him after the show, but
there were a few questions that I would have asked had I been there, but I also feel like the flow of the conversation, I feel like this. It was not probably as smooth as like, taking me out, plugging JJ in for technically working, but it was kind of like that.
yeah.
It was like, oh, maybe we should talk to JJ about filling in sometimes if one of us can't make it.
Right, it kind of flowed into some of the conversations we've had, and it was smooth-ish for the most part. And I think if he did it, 5 or 6 times, then he'd definitely catch on to our flow, or we'd catch on to his talking styles as well in a podcast form. But no, dear listener, we are not planning on replacing either of us. We kind of wanted to bring JJ in to learn more about AT Guys and his history and some of the things he does in business. But also, we do anticipate maybe bringing him back in the future to let Damashe have a conversation with him and see how that goes, or Damashe and I. But I got to go look because I don't remember. Do you remember when we brought Steven in? It's not like we're doing it every 10 episodes.
No, Steven was back in the summer. I don't remember which episode it was.
Mhm.
There was one of those. So I did have one of those situations where I was listening to the show and I like literally was talking to the podcast. I know you can't hear me, but I'm talking to the podcast because I'm like, no, Mike. So yeah, there is that time we had Steven on, but we've had another guest since Steven. Like, don't just, it's like, oh, I forgot that we had Taylor.
Yes, I did not mention Taylor. I forgot. See, I mentioned Taylor in the pre-show, but we didn't start in the pre-show because no one knows when the show starts.
But yeah, we did have Steven on back during the summer. It was short. It was like July-ish, I'm going to say. Because I know I was home. We were still in the old house. So it would have had to
Taylor
have been
was
July.
episode 86.
Yeah, Taylor was fairly recent.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not gonna say we're not going to bring guests on semi-regularly. But I think that type of conversation is the type of conversation we would have with guests that might want to come on. So if you're doing something with tech, or you're doing something with your work, or your washer is technically working, then come on in and send us an email to feedback@technicallyworking.show in order to chat more about what you're doing, because I think we could definitely work well together.
Yeah. We that's one thing that we talked about when preparing to even launch this show. This is before we had a title for the show. Like, we want to bring people on. Like, it's not going to be a completely, interview show where there's always guests, or every 10 episodes we're bringing a person on, or every whatever. Like, there's not going to be a rhythm like that, partially because we're technically working and we don't really know what the hell we're doing most of the time. We're just doing something to keep it moving. But seriously, like, we did want to, like, JJ is one of those people that we target. And we have a short list, if I remember, a very short list of people that we both were like, yeah, we should get that person on at some point. Once we get the show going and kind of know what we're doing, like, let's not bring them on in the first 10 episodes, because we really won't know what we're doing. Apparently Stephen appeared on episode 68 of the Technically Working podcast.
Oh,
according
you found
to GPT.
Too?
Well, I did GPT to see if you could find it.
Oh, Not Bad for One Conversation was the name of the episode, back on July 8th. TW68. Wait, GPT knew that?
Yeah.
Huh. Okay.
It's a straight raw search. My prompt was, which episode of Technically Working was Steven Scott on? And I came back with 68.
Huh. Okay. Well, good.
I feel great because GPT knows about our show. All right.
Yeah.
I made it, man. We're done.
It's funny. So I was listening to a tech podcast, and SEO was the big thing, but now it's AI optimized content, or AOC, that is going to be the new thing for people to get into. So learning how to optimize your content so it's indexed by AI and AI surfaces what you have to say. And when I heard that, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. I need to figure out how to do that. And this time, don't just half-ass do it, because I lived through the SEO days, and I anticipate. I don't like the acronym AOC, but it makes sense. AI. Wait, is it AOC? Whatever I just said, but
yeah, AI optimized
content. Yes, AOC, AI optimized content.
So I said, "Oh no," and the reason I said, "Oh no," is one, because that's a terrible moniker.
Acronym.
Yeah, an acronym. But also, I remember when SEO became a thing. Kids, go ask your parents, because you're probably not old enough. Some of you may not actually really be old enough to know when SEO started, but I remember SEO became a thing. And when it started out, it was like much of the internet that happens. When something starts out, it's nice. I mean, I remember when Facebook used to be really nice.
Yep.
And I was actually on there a lot.
It was integrated with the iPhone's operating system.
Yeah.
You could do stuff with Facebook throughout the operating system. Yeah. Interface was clean.
Yes. But like much of the internet, things that have started, SEO started out and it was clean. It really was just kind of guidance and it was from people inside of Google, I think, were kind of, I'm not going to say pushing it, but kind of trying to educate bloggers. Remember blogs? Those don't exist anymore. Educate bloggers on just kind of maximizing some of your keywords, like using keywords so that your content would show up in relevant ways, right? And it's as simple as, let's take a thing I did that is not on the internet anymore, because I took that site down several years ago and have not bothered to put it back up. But I wrote a post with screenshots and everything in it about doing something in 1Password. I don't remember what it was now. And this is 1Password 6-ish.
Oh, so a while.
Might have been 1Password 7. It was a while ago. It was on Damashe.org, Mike, so it was a long time ago. But in that post, like, and I still, when I would write stuff, like when I wrote things and I wrote blogs, like I would use keywords. So like, 1Password is a keyword. So if you're looking for whatever the thing I was showing or discussing about some capabilities of 1Password that small business or larger businesses may or not have been familiar with 1Password. A lot of that will be keywords. So I use some specific keywords throughout the post that if you were searching for, let's say it's how to add a two-factor code. It's not what it was, but you know, two-factor codes with 1Password should bring that article up, right? Or how to use two-factor with 1Password, even if what you're actually may have been searching for in that instance could have been how do I turn on two-factor? Well, back then you would have been trying to do what I was trying to do, what I was talking about, but with 1Password 8, that could surface up several different things. But this is using keywords, and then it not rapidly. I don't remember this really being a rapid acceleration, but I do remember once it started, it did accelerate pretty fast where you got to keyword stuffing, which is, it's like what you see on Amazon now, not with the products. I'm searching for earbuds, Bluetooth earbuds.
Bluetooth wireless earbuds. Come on, that's a little redundant, people.
Yeah, Bluetooth wireless earbuds work with iPhone 15, 16 Pro Max, 13 Pro Max,
Android,
Samsung, Android, Pixel,
Windows, Chromebook.
Yeah, and all that's the title, right? This is not just, here's the description. No, this is the title, right? That's when people started keyword stuffing. So if you want to know what keyword stuffing at its worst really looks like, just do a search on Amazon for something basic and you will see it. Search for a USB-C cable on Amazon and that will give you some keyword stuffing examples. And it went from that to people trying to hack the SEO, like trick it so that they would show up higher in Google to rank over people, etc. It turned into a whole thing. Mike wasn't in there. Mike was very instrumental in me paying more attention to SEO, but Mike was also instrumental in me being like, you know what, this plugin over here in WordPress works pretty good. I'm going to start putting that on people's sites and configuring it. And it will tell them if they need to, hey, here's how your SEO is looking, or here, help people correct some things that some mistakes that they were making. Mike never came across something. You were really heavy into it when we started, like when I first met you. Optimizing your content and things like that, and even optimizing social media posts. But when I met you, and probably the reason that we became friends is because you didn't come across as like, here's how you hack it to get to the top of Google or whatever. It's like, no, this is what you need to do so that you actually show up in relevant places to make your content more relevant to Google. This is how you show up. So if you go down this path with the AIOC, that sounds like some kind of governmental committee that's researching the problem they're never going to solve. But hey, if you go down the road with AI optimized content, I would suggest people definitely follow you on that journey because you kept your ethics intact throughout the worst of
adventure.
SEO. The SEO adventure.
There for a little bit, I was able to find myself, and I think you found me doing a test for the best marketer in Oregon. And you know what? I realized that didn't help anything because I wasn't actually the best marketer in Oregon. And so people were able to see that. However, it was easy-ish at the time to game the system if I wanted to. And I think that helped me realize it's not worth the short game. It's more worth the long game to build your reputation based on actions you take. So, yeah. We'll see what happens with AI.
That is one of the most important things you can learn in business. And a lot of what I have seen on the internet, there's been a rise and fall of these different things, and they're always kind of going on. I just really don't pay attention to them anymore at all. But I remember the days, and I won't name any people's names specifically, because who knows what their financial status is today, and they may try to sue me. But there are a lot of people who had these ways of hacking SEO or ways of 10xing your business. And I'm not talking about the 10x your business guy. I'm just saying, like, these are terms that were thrown around quite a bit. Marketing yourself, all of this stuff. And there was that group of people that legitimately, hey, I accomplished this thing by following these steps or doing this type of stuff. Here's how I did it. And it was just legitimately, hey, here's how I got to where I am, or here's what helped me get to where I am. I'm just sharing it back to the rest of the world. And then there was what I felt like, I'm not going to say con artist, but sort of con artisty type of stuff where it was like, build yourself as the expert in the area, and then you can succeed. And it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
but it would go from it was kind of like the thing that you learn where it's like, oh, here's how you make yourself surface as the expert on a thing, but you're not the expert on that thing, right? So how is that really helping as a consultant or whatever your particular business is? How is that helping a customer that is looking for something if you figured out how to trick the system to recommend you versus somebody who actually knows what you're talking about? Uh, but that much happens in the real world off of the internet too. People know people, so this person ends up with a job as let's say, an AT instructor, and they have uh, little to no knowledge about what the hell it is they're supposed to be teaching people.
Uh-huh. Yeah. But
They're the so this JAWS command, Windows M will take you to the desktop. No, those people, right? But these are the instructors, not the students. It's okay if a student thinks this is fine. It's okay if you're just a computer user and you think that because you never had instruction. It's fine. But an instructor should never use those words. But I have seen it. I have heard it.
yes.
I have had to correct students after the fact. Like, no, so that's just a Windows because they were switching to a different screen reader, right? Because, whatever, they retired from their job, but they still want to use a computer and no more JAWS for them. So NVDA or system access. It's like, oh, they have the same they have the same JAWS shortcut to get to the desktop. Windows shortcut. That works even if you don't have a screen reader.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is how people like me who are often fiddling with stuff get the screen reader to come back on. Put a shortcut on your desktop for your screen reader. I'm telling you, on Windows, it will change. It will save your life more often than it won't.
It does. It does. Did you know with NVDA, if it's reading something and you tap the shift key, it will pause that speech?
I
Kind of like
may or may
voiceover.
not
If you tap the control key, it'll pause that speech.
Yeah.
Yeah, I accidentally discovered that the other day. And since I discovered that, I've been playing with NVDA a lot more because sometimes I just want to pause the speech. I don't want to stop it. I want to pause it so my voice can catch up with the script that I'm reading, and then I can resume the screen reader. I know it'd be a lot easier if I just used Braille, but it says the 40 sitting to the right of me.
Yeah, so I wasn't going to say that, though. I was going to say that is an amazing skill that I don't have. I don't think I could listen to a transcript being read by a screen reader and then at the same time be reading that back on air. I would have to use Braille because I don't know. I can't do that. Like, I probably could. It will take me a long time to get there.
Well, I've definitely gotten better with it over the years, and I picked up that skill from some conversations with Tom, and I think it wasn't Tom. It was Kelly. Kelly was talking about how he doesn't use Braille and he just uses his script and then he reformats it to work for him. And he said, if a sighted person looked at my script, they'd be like, what is this? And why are these words all over here? But it works best for the screen reader and at the pace that he has his screen reader set. So Kelly gave me that advice probably back in 2020. And I've been practicing with it more and more. And I've gotten better at it. I'm not perfect, but I've gotten better with it.
Now, I could probably do the Kelly method if he's doing because I've had to do this a few times and like I'm reading notes with the screen, but my hands are on the keyboard. So like, I'm not going to be doing the handy gestures all around and like, because my hands are literally on the keyboard navigating to read, the sentences. And I might break it up kind of real. Yeah. If you looked at it like, what in the world are you doing? But I know I can hear those words and be able to regurgitate those words back without losing my place. But what it sounded like to me you were doing is like, oh, you hit read all.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I reformat my scripts. Now, every once in a while, I can, like, as I've done with you a time or two, I can read some text on a web page and the control key being able to pause it so my voice catches up with voiceover is handy. But like if someone gives me a script to read for a voiceover project, first thing I do is go reformat that. Usually it's no more than 5 or 6 words per line. That way I can say the line and then pause for half a second and then say the next line. And then I use some editing to make that flow show, but when you say the line and you have the words for the next line already read to you in your head, you can pause at the point where you might need to go back and reread the line, but keep the same inflection. So that's easier when you're in a recording environment. When I'm live on KR, well, I guess it's Casey. I keep doing that. When I'm live on Kelly and Co., I just put bullet points for what I want to talk about, and I don't actually script out everything I say.
Yeah, that's more like what I do, especially if I have to do it in a live environment. It's kind of what I've done when I've had to do presentations where I actually prepared for the presentation. I would just have like bullet points because that jogs my memory enough or jogs me enough to know, okay, this is the order I wanted to talk about this in, but I can speak internally sometimes about a specific topic. So I don't need any notes. I might put bullet points to make sure that I hit a specific area or a specific topic. I really should save this link in Text Expander, but I haven't done it yet.
What link?
The Zoom link.
Oh.
I had to go search my email again to get in Zoom.
I mean, it is just... Well, maybe I shouldn't say it, but it is just zoom.us/j/my business phone number.
Yeah, but then they always ask for a password.
Yeah. See, and I don't think about that.
Link. Yeah, because otherwise I would just use the trick. So you probably can't do this as much as you used to, but you could in the past before pre-pandemic, I'll say. Because now Zoom kind of enforces passwords unless you explicitly go turn them off. But you used to be able to open up Zoom, hit join meeting, and then go to meeting history and pull up your last couple of meetings. And that's how I used to get to a lot of stuff.
Yep.
That still works, except that it pops up and says, enter the password. I'm like, I have to do what the freaking password is, man. You go search mail. That's easy.
Can't you just autofill the password for me? Because I'm signing in on the same device Zoom. Come on. Let's work well together.
Copy link. Maybe I'll, now that's an idea. Maybe I'll put the password part in one path.
So, do we want to talk? Have you had time to reflect on the year of connections?
I have, to a certain extent.
I've reflected on the year of purpose, and I don't have I haven't listened to Upgrade in quite a while. I think that's the one. Is it Upgrade where they do the annual themes, or is it Cortex?
No, that's more Cortex.
Cortex. Yeah. So I listened to Cortex a couple of weeks ago. By the way, quick side note, I am almost all the way caught up on my podcast. It's about darn time just for everything to come back from holiday, and then I'll fall behind again. But anyways, I was listening to Cortex when they were talking about their annual themes, and I think I better understand the point of doing annual themes. For example, they were talking about the year of reading, which means that if you just read 10 pages today, or you just read 3 pages today, you're still working on that yearly theme of being able to actually go and get more reading done if that's your yearly theme. So it made me think possibly in a different light than what I was originally thinking about my yearly theme, which is the year of purpose. My yearly theme in my mind was I need to have purpose for every single action that I take, no matter what. And for the most part, that's accurate-ish. But if you look back at your year, which I've been doing a little bit more reflecting, and if we remember, we can talk about my journal adventures because I'm a little frustrated with day one, but I might go back to them. But I was looking back at this last year, and I realized how much purpose was put into some of the things a lot of the things or actions that I took. And looking back, this time last year, I was working through a very in-depth paperwork process to be able to become a vendor in the state of Oregon. And that got completed in the first half of 2024. And I think a lot of that was because I actually had a purpose behind why I wanted to do it. And I was able to see that, and that definitely helped. The other thing that I think is good to reflect on is the purpose of podcasting. What is the purpose of spending as much time and energy, because Damashe knows, but maybe some listeners don't know. Sometimes this podcasting stuff, I'm spending hours a day doing some of the editing / producing of the content. And yes, we're making some money with Unmute. We're profiting, I think it's like $14 or something like that after all the other fees. I don't have the exact number, but we are profiting a little bit from Club Unmute. But in the beginning of that, there was no profit at all. And it was a lot of doing what you like to do and not getting paid for it. And
I just want to interject right here that you should go to technicallyworking.show and become a tip jar subscriber, because there's no way that Unmute should be out profiting this show. Took care of your mic.
I mean, we are producing a lot more content on Unmute than this show.
This is true.
Yeah, you got to consider that. But when I forget where I first heard it, but I heard someone say, if you want to find a job that you'll love, find something that you can do without getting paid all day long. And I found, guess what? I'll do podcasting all day long without getting paid. And then earlier this year with Marty and I, we decided, we need to do something to actually move this project forward. So the purpose behind launching Club Unmute is to help with offsetting the cost of energy and software and time that we're putting into these shows to produce for people. And yes, over the last 2 months, we've kind of taken a bit of a hiatus off of the live show, but that's coming back in January in a different form factor. It'll be the first and third Saturday of the month and not every Tuesday. But the purpose behind taking a break was because we wanted to see what is it that we actually enjoyed doing with the show, and what is it that became more of a chore that none of us really wanted to get done. And then also, how is it that we want to make the show look moving forward? And so when I think about actions that were taken in 2024, I can find the purpose for why those actions were taken, but right now I don't have a theme for 2025.
So that is the one thing that made me bring kind of the idea of themes to the show last year coming into this year, because it's not like the sort of resolution thing that people do around New Year's. And honestly, for anybody, you can, pick a theme whenever you feel like it, or whenever you feel like there needs to be a change. But with your example of the year reading, for example, like there's no failure point unless you just don't read anything.
Yeah.
But it's not designed to be it's not like you're not setting a hard limit. And that's why I did this. So Mike's year was year of purpose, and mine was year of connections. And there's a lot to be excavated from either one of those two words, right? Like it's very general, open, like, things I do should have purpose, or, there should be a purpose for me not doing a thing. There's lots of ways to look at purpose. For connections, for me, some of that is, legitimate people connections, like, because I'm a very prickly individual. Check out my check out my Mastodon handle at the end of the show. You'll see like that is such a perfect Mastodon domain for me. Like I love it. But there's also just a year of like connecting things together, like putting pieces together in a puzzle. Like, okay, a lot of connections I've made have been personal, like interpersonal connections, like in my brain of, the way you thought people thought about this, or the way you think people learn things, is not necessarily the way they learn things. So you're going to have to do a little bit more work to educate / train some people on how and why things need to be done the way that they're done. So it's not just about going out and connecting with people. And if I didn't connect with 27 new people by the end of the year, then I failed. No, there's no failure here at all, because I have met new people. I interact with more people purposefully. Still a little bit of Mike's thing. Than I did in 23. I met new people. Some of those people, I kind of clicked with. So it's, some of them are vendors. So, I'm reaching out to them because, we're sharing information back and forth, some of them are just general people that I have gotten to know. But other connections have been making business connections, like in the sense of, so one connection that I made fairly recently, and I'm going to have to spend some time with this, and this probably is going to steer us off in a whole other conversation, but it's about how sometimes there is software you want to use, or there's a particular service that you want to use because it seems like it is the best overall tool for the job. And I'm speaking specifically of Google Docs, really Google Sheets, right? It's easy to set up, even if you're not in workspace, like everybody has a Gmail account of some sort somewhere, or a Google account of some sort somewhere. And Google Sheets should be a thing that you use. Google Docs should be a thing that you use. But sometimes just because something overall on the surface looks to be the best tool, the frustration involved with it is a little irritating, which means you fall back to, iCloud and Numbers for your spreadsheets. Because, hey, Numbers is on my Mac all the time, and it's on my phone. And if I was using it, it would be on my iPad. That does create the problem. Like, how do you deal with people who may be on Android and need to see this sheet, this spreadsheet that you put together, and be able to actually, edit that spreadsheet and collaborate. That's the word I'm looking for. Needs to be able to collaborate on that spreadsheet. I haven't solved that problem yet. I probably am going to take a look at Microsoft's tools because, one, they have their apps everywhere because they finally got smart. But also they have online versions of their apps as well. So I may end up using Excel.
That'll be interesting.
But that's the thing that just, literally kind of, I don't say occurred to me. It occurred to me like in the past 72 hours because I really was trying to shove Google Sheets, and I hadn't shared it with anybody. I just was, trying to build out the sheet I wanted. And like, I kept getting frustrated. It's like, the time that I'm putting in here, even though on the surface, this is the right tool for the job, this ain't the right tool for me to be using for the job. And facts are, if somebody else struggles in any sort of way with Google Sheets, I can't help you.
Yeah.
If you're using Numbers, I can kind of help you depending on what you're trying to do. Similarly with Excel, for my needs at least, like I can help you accomplish the thing you need to accomplish. If you start getting into more advanced and you're like, oh, well, we should take this data that's in here and make a pivot table. I'm like, yep, I'm out. Send it to me when you're done.
Quick side note for the astute listener who is listening to the show. If you happen to know, and maybe Damashe knows, how the hell to turn voiceover sounds down on your Mac, let me know. I think the only way to do it is to maybe with Sound Source, but if you adjust the volume of your voice to, 40%, your sound stay at 100%, which is kind of dumb. And I'm guessing you don't have sounds on VoiceOver.
They are actually on, but they're not at... How did I fix this? Change your sound effects and Sound Source.
Okay. Yep.
Mine is set to 30, and my voiceover sounds are there for the times that they will be helpful, but they're not overwhelming. And I'm betting yep, there you go. I don't understand why when you bring up an app like that, like I hit whatever my shortcut is for Sound Source, Command Option F12, and I hit Escape, and it drops me back into the Mail app, but now I can't navigate in Mail. As
a follow-up, I'd be curious, what do you have your voiceover volume set to in Sound Source? Because adjusted sound effects on my Mac, for example, the message that I just got, the notification was a lot quieter, so I appreciate that, but the voiceover sound effect stayed at 100%. So I went and actually turned the voiceover volume down to 56%, and then the voiceover voice volume is currently set at 80%, but I can turn it up to 100% if I need to. So I think that's what I have to do to turn down the volume.
Let me see what I did here, because my voiceover volume in Sound Source is set to 100%.
Really?
But it's 30% in the volume,
the volume rotor.
Yeah, there you go.
With Control Option Command Shift left. That is such a mouthful.
Okay. I'm trying to see if there's something. Nope, that's just volume. Okay, now I gotta go to voiceover utility. Maybe I did something here.
So while Damashe's poking his voiceover settings, the reason I wanted to turn my voiceover sounds down, and now I got to figure out how to get enough speech. Whoa, that's adjusting pitch, not volume. Just saying. That's a weird effect when you're live and you can't say, whoa, that's adjusting voiceover pitch. But astute listeners would be like, oh, something threw Michael off, because all of a sudden I had my Alex voice at 100%. And I'm like, Alex, you should not be sounding like that. So anyways, I just wanted to give a what I presume, and maybe I shouldn't presume this, but a newer listener to the show, and that's why I said I presume, maybe I shouldn't. But so I want to say hey and thanks for Laurel Jean Walden for listening. And I hesitated because we were just talking about how good I am at translating voice over voice to actual speaking. But they said that they enjoyed the podcast and our conversations about our workflows. And that's the intention behind the show. So thanks for listening, and thanks for connecting with us on Mastodon, which Damashe will share with you how to do that at the end, because I stumbled over it last episode. That was weird, by the way. Closing up the episode, I almost forgot. I almost forgot to introduce our guest, too. As
I noticed that, too. I was like, he's like 2 minutes into the show, and like people don't even know who they're talking to. Who's this guy? Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I just laughed. I was like, Mike does need to be on the show.
Show security. Can't say job security, because I mean, we're not. But
if more
security.
people go to technicallyworking.show and come tip jar subscribers, maybe it could be a job. So to kind of wrap up, because I thought about this, and I felt like maybe going back and doing like a little deeper review in the new year, and also I haven't thought about a theme for 25 either, might be a better point. I think we've kind of touched on I feel like for me, just in general though, the year of connection was good. I didn't do as well, but there were times during the year where I just, I was just moving. Like I was keeping it moving, like basically get up, do what needs to be done. And there wasn't any additional thought. And I'm guessing probably for you in a lot of ways, there were sometimes you were just, getting things done that needed doing and just making sure that you maintained a level of productivity without thinking about any intentionality. But there's quite a bit that I know you did this year that was very purposeful. You thought about it, like you didn't just make moves. And to me, at least, I feel like that was a lot of the year of purpose for you, was not so much like having I can write a, paragraph or whatever on the purpose of doing this action.
Right.
But it was more intentionally doing things, or having more intentionality when you chose to do something or invest time into something.
Yeah, like learning a little bit of Python. I don't know all the Python, but I know enough to get some jobs done. And man, automation is nice.
Man, look, I'm guessing nobody knows all the Python.
Oh,
not even the person who originally wrote the Python probably doesn't know all the Python at this point.
Because you got all these packages that are adding more Python to Python.
Right. But tell people about your Python script, because so this is how this got to me. I got it in a text message with a bunch of emojis and stuff. So I was like, oh, Mike shared somebody's post that he found on the internet somewhere or something. Turns out it was Mike's posts about a thing he had built. So tell me about this.
So if you're following me on Mastodon, and there's a link there that you can click, it's been updated a time or two. But earlier this week. Okay,
now you should put it on GitHub. I'm just going to interject that right now. If you've updated it a couple of times since you first published it, you should put it on GitHub.
Okay. That'll be my objective this week, is to get it on GitHub, which really means I just need to get everything all reset up. But Microsoft made an announcement 2 weeks ago, I think, that, because I don't think it was this week. Yeah, it had to have been the week before Christmas.
It was at least last week.
Yeah. So Microsoft made an announcement that GitHub Copilot is now free for 2,000 code completions and 50 messages a month. And I said, that's interesting. I should go play with GitHub Copilot and see what it is I can do. And then last week I was talking to someone and he said, if I could give you one piece of advice for what you're doing with podcasting right now, it would be to break out the shows that are the most successful into their own podcast feeds. And that's something that we've known, and I just didn't want to take the time to go and find all those shows and all the details and upload them to their own podcast feed. But it's one of the things that, hey, it needs to be done. So I sat down with GitHub Copilot, my second best friend, and I said, hey, Mr. Copilot or Mrs. Copilot, person, thingy, chat, AI, I need to build a tool, and this tool needs to do the following. And then I actually wrote this prompt in drafts so I could format it with Markdown. I figure if it gives me Markdown, I can give it Markdown. And I said, one thing I need you to do is ask me for an RSS feed. And if I don't enter an RSS feed, use this RSS feed as the default. And then I went and I said, the second thing I need you to do is go to that feed and ask me where I want. No, the second thing I need to do is for you to ask me where I want you to save the files at. And then the next thing I want you to do is ask me if there's a keyword that I want you to search the titles for and then only download those episodes. And then the last thing I want you to do is start a timer, and in the timer, after you're done downloading the episodes, and tell me how long that took you and how many episodes you downloaded. I also need you to create subdirectories for the folder that I tell you to put the files in, one called MP3 and one called show notes. Format the titles of the MP3 files that you download into the name of the episode from the RSS feed in title case, and then do the same thing with the show notes. And the last thing that I told it to do was when you're putting the show notes as TXT documents in the show notes folder, I want you to start the beginning of the show notes with the publish date of that item in the RSS feed. And I said something like publish : and then the date in MDDYY format. And I gave ChatGPT, well, actually it was GitHub Copilot, that prompt. Honestly, I worked with ChatGPT to say, hey, here are the things that I want to accomplish with this. Help me generate a prompt I can give to GitHub for the most accurate way of creating this particular tool. I was just using github.com/copilot. I hadn't integrated it with VS Code at that point, but it came back and gave me a version of the script that I copied into VS Code, created a .py file, and ran that, and it worked on the first time that I ran it. Then I said, man, it would be cool because JAWS/NVDA, actually, I don't know what JAWS would do, but NVDA goes silent once it's doing the downloads. So I said, man, it would be cool if you could generate some tones that ascend in frequency as you go and download the files. And it said, here's how I would do that. And then it gave me code. And I'm like, that looks interesting. Let's try it. And I have a Parallels machine set up for just development, fiddling around. And so I dropped it in there and it worked, gave me the ascending tones, and I was blown away. And now I want to, think of other things that I can automate. But I think having that structured list of things that I want to do was helpful. Now I can take the code and go back to the same conversation and go back over and say, now I actually want you, once you've downloaded these files, to ask me if I want to search for another keyword. Or now I want you, if I don't enter a keyword, to download all of the episodes from the RSS feed and organize them in the same way that the other episodes are downloaded in. Because if I just hit enter on the keyword section, it says no keyword entered, exiting now, or no keyword entered, exiting, or something like that, because that wasn't part of the original prompt, so it didn't code for that eventuality of me just hitting enter to try to download everything.
And that is super cool. Like, I thought, and when I first saw you sent me the Mastodon post text and a message. So I was like, oh, that's super cool. And somebody did this. And then I found out it was Mike, and it was really cool. And it's because I kind of know where you are with Python. But again, it's kind of similar to what I was doing with some PHP stuff and some JavaScript stuff here and there. And I'm going to get back into doing that because it's gotten much better at that. But I can look at certain code and I can tell if something is off, or like I can look at a lot of WordPress code and tell if something is off about something it is generated. Like, nope, I can already tell that's not going to work.
Mhm.
But I don't necessarily know all of the ways to accomplish the thing I need to accomplish, and it shortens the process. Copilot in VS Code, two things: learn the shortcuts, whatever they may be, or set your own shortcuts.
Yeah, because
But
Control Alt I also means you got to turn voiceover off.
oh yeah, because item chooser.
Yep, brings up item chooser.
Also, you've done a thing that I'm going to do, and I haven't done it on my MacBook Air, on this MacBook Air here, but I am going to do it at some point whenever this new MacBook Pro shows up. So you have I am going to put a development Windows machine on here, but I also want to put a development Mac OS machine in Parallels.
Ooh, there you go. I always forget you can put Mac OS in Parallels.
Because I want to poke at stuff and mess with it and not necessarily break my computer.
It's been a little while since I reset this computer.
I desperately feel like I need to wipe this one because I've done something and I don't even know what that something is. But it could also just be Mac OS or VoiceOver being weird. That's also a thing. But using it the right code. Now, I've been doing some different stuff, not so much code stuff here in the past week or so with GPT. But for example, there is a new Insta360 Link 2 and Link 2C that has come out. And I know this because I got an email from Insta360. That's the webcam I think a lot of the people at AMI were using. The Insta360 Link, the original one, which I have one sitting in front of me now. It's not plugged up, but it's up here. I got an email about this. Probably I got this email because I also bought that. What was the thing called? A little gimbal thing that I'm not going to remember his name, but it was discussed and talked about on Double Tap.
Yeah.
So I got one of those because they had a nice Black Friday sale, and I felt like I needed something because I do have some plans to do some different things in 25 when it comes to capturing content. Just a side note for listeners, it does support DocKit, which is cool because that means it can track you in the camera app or Zoom or whatever. You don't have to use their app to do anything. Another device that supports DocKit on iOS is the Belkin something another stand. I bought Tia one of these for Christmas because I have aspirations for her. I don't know if she's going to do anything with it or not, but I have aspirations as she gets back into, making products and things like that. She can, record the content that she wanted to record without having a stationary camera. Like the phone can actually track her as she's moving around the room. When I tell you the Belkin thing is easier to use, like I really wish I'd have bought me one of those. Because I have no idea what the hell I'm doing with this Flow Pro from Insta360. But anyway, I get this email about the Link 2 and the Link 2C. They don't have the best site for trying to read information, but much like a lot of Amazon stuff has become now too, like it's very difficult to get just a straight up description of the product. So I went to GPT and I was like, hey, these devices came out. Give me a thorough comparison of, the Insta360 Link 2 and the Link 2C. And we went back and forth and had a good in-depth conversation, asking different questions to determine whether or not, one, did I really need to upgrade to this camera? Did I need to buy one? Should I buy one? Which one should I buy if I should buy one? Etc. But I found myself doing a lot of comparison stuff with GPT since it has the ability to browse the web between a lot of different things. I just picked up a new access point for the network and also picked up a thing that I wasn't sure that existed, but I felt like needed to exist. And I searched GPT for it instead of searching Google or DuckDuckGo, which is a power over Ethernet hub, right? So, we typically can just buy an Ethernet hub, you plug it up, connect it to your router, and you have more Ethernet ports, right, that you can use. Well, because I mean, I really just want to use the power over Ethernet, one, because it's cool. Two, I don't want to keep trying to plug stuff up in that corner where all my networking stuff is, because you're going to eventually run out of plugs. So I was like, I want an Ethernet power over Ethernet hub. It doesn't have to pass power over Ethernet through its, additional Ethernet ports. It just needs to run off a pole. And it gave me actually like several recommendations. I ended up buying the Unify one because it was only $29. But it gave me a couple of recommendations. I was like, all right, cool. So I've been finding myself doing a lot more of that with GPT. I've written a couple of scripts. I actually wrote a script to download the ad-free versions of a specific podcast, starting with a script that was out there to download all of the episodes of that podcast public feed. But I wanted the ad-free version since they started doing ad-free. The ad-free version don't go all the way back to episode 1, but I did want going forward to get the ad-free episodes instead of the ad episodes, and also download the show notes. So I just had used GPT to modify a shell script a bit to get that to work. And I thought about doing what you did, and I probably should do that and have it break the episodes out into subfolders, because that's going to get messy real quick. So we'll come back to our yearly theme for next year, because I really need to think about like what makes sense. The year of, I have no idea, meditation. I need to think more. The year of calm. That may be my theme. I'm not saying that is what it's going to be, but just off the top of my head. Hopefully we will have a banger of an opening show for 2025. So that definitely probably won't be the show where we discuss our themes.
But themes might get into that discussion.
Possibly.
So
we'll see. I want to read a listener email from Scout. Well, I'm not going to read their entire.
I was going to say, you're going to read this whole thing?
No, I'm going to kind of summarize what Scout has actually said. Is what I'm going to.
I'll let him do that. He can read it all. First of all, we appreciate Scout for sending us an email, and you listening. If you want to send us an email as well, we definitely would appreciate that.
Feedback at technicallyworking.show.
Because the feedback is it's not the only thing, because Damashe and I have done this for years without getting any feedback on the show at all. But feedback definitely helps justify why we spend an hour and a half every week at some point sitting down, having a chat, and then some more time getting it produced and then published. So appreciate that.
And the feedback is good to also, let us know that you are, like, we're not just, background noise that you turn on to go to sleep. Like, that would not be.
Although we are okay if we're your background noise. Can you just make sure that your podcast app deletes the episode when you're done, and then it re-downloads it a couple seconds later so the download number doesn't go up?
No trying to spoof the ad numbers, man. So, but Scout has sent us an email. I'm gonna summarize basically what Scout says. So first, well, I don't know if Scout wants everybody to know that. I'm just going to say congratulations, Scout. I hope that spring event happens for you as planned, and exciting about the fall. That'll be very cool. Got much further in university than I did, for sure.
Yes. I have an associate's. That's the furthest I got.
So one thing Scout mentions is that from listening to us, so one thing that Scout mentions is that listening to us, he is browsing Amazon looking for soundproofing panels to put in the bedroom. His thought was to put them in the room that he uses for an office, but apparently his wife would prefer that they go in the bedroom, which makes sense. So when she's asleep and he's up doing stuff, she ain't got to hear none of it.
Yeah.
Which means she don't want to hear you banging around in the kitchen making coffee or doing whatever you're doing in there either, is why she wants them in the bedroom. But good deal. I do need to put some soundproofing up out here in my office as well. I haven't gotten to that point, but I have been moving stuff out of my office. Just about got all the overflow chips out of here too. Got a little bit more to do, but the office is nice. I think I'm going to rearrange it by the time I'm done, turn my desk around. So I will be with my back at the wall that I'm currently facing right now, which means when you come into the office, I will be able to see you. Well, not really see you, but you know what I mean? Like, you'll be looking at me behind the desk.
Yeah, you won't be looking at my back.
Yeah, there you go. Which I think would be cool.
It will be, actually. And for full transparency, while Damashe reads the next paragraph and summarizes that, I don't have noise soundproofing. I have noise dampening. And I think soundproofing will get a lot more expensive, but we're not sure how. And that's the problem with renting. I'm not in any sort of a lease right now, so I don't know how long I'll be in this particular area. Not that we're talking about moving, although the idea of moving has come up, but then we remind ourselves how horrible moving actually is. And we're like, well, is $200 a month worth moving for? And then we don't move. But the thing is I wanted to get something quick, cheap, and easy to put up. So what I have is noise dampening, which means right now it's not affecting my voice at all. Any lack of noise that you might hear in the recording is because of the magic work of Alphonic and how helpful it is, and some Reaper tools as well, which I need to install some of those Reaper tools again. But the point is if I want to give that more radio sound and have people just hear my voice and no reflections of flat surfaces, then I can just turn to my left and talk into the noise dampening foam, and that will reduce the noise. I don't know how effective they would be at blocking external noises out of here, because honestly, I just have them around me and not like the whole garage isn't covered in them. So it might be pretty decent, but you might want to specifically look for noise canceling instead of noise dampening.
Good point. Scott also goes on to say that with the business taking off and us having plans for doing membership things and building a new site for technically working, and me and Michael both being busy, sounds like we need a third person to take care of that stuff, which we can't pay said person for this, so that's not going to happen. Or I should consider using a database instead of a simple spreadsheet for tracking inventory. That is an interesting thought. There, Scout, and I really would like for you to follow up and give me some more of your thoughts on that, because it seems like for you to make that recommendation, you have some experience with databases at least. So definitely follow up and feed that information to me. Interested in, I have thought about our old friend that we tried out a long time ago, Mike Airtable, like maybe bring Airtable into the mix for some stuff. But the reason I'm doing a spreadsheet or doing spreadsheets right now is because I need some way to keep track of certain stuff. And it's better than nothing. I do have a plan that would involve a database, but I'm curious to hear what Scout says. For sure. I definitely have plans that would involve using a database for a lot of this. And
Python will solve your problems with ChatGPT.
And allowing some AI to help with correlating some of the data that, because that's another thing I think the large language models can be used for that is very beneficial, is spotting patterns that we don't see.
Yes, for sure, 100%.
So there are plans for 2025, but I got a lot to deal with. But yeah, definitely share more of your thoughts on building that database, Scout, or if anybody else has any ideas on it. Probably not actually going to go the Airtable route unless somebody really suggests and can sell it to me in a way that makes it make sense, only because I don't really know how to use Airtable. Mm-hmm. Me and Michael tried it out, and at that time, the accessibility was really...
It left a bit to be desired.
Yeah, I was going to say rough, but yeah, it left quite a bit to be desired. I definitely could see how something like Airtable is useful in a lot of different ways, but there's that accessibility angle that has to always be considered.
And I don't understand this last paragraph.
I do. So the last thing Scout says, at least I think I understand, is this last section here. So Scout basically is saying, and feel free to reach out, Scout, Mastodon or email, and let us know if we're wrong. But what I think Scout is asking is, with issues like the ground hum effect from having a cable touching your XLR cable, why keep using it instead of using something different? Or is XLR one of those things that's just around, that's still around, that's slowly going away anyway? It's kind of my takeaway. So basically we've talked about ground hum and when you're plugging in XLR cables for a microphone or speakers, anything like that, one of the things you have to watch out for is that ground hum, because you have a cable that is passing its own current for its own reasons that is laying across an XLR cable, and you get that low level hum that is very irritating. And people should learn how to use their EQ and roll that off up under 80 hertz and take care of that. Like, even I know that. But Scout seems to be asking, like, wouldn't it be simpler? I'm guessing, and I'm really paraphrasing here. Like, I'm guessing it's like, well, instead of dealing with those kind of issues anyway, why not just plug in a USB mic or something, or whatever. So the way I'm going to answer this question is based off how I'm understanding it, which is, number one, XLR I don't think is going anywhere anytime soon, because that is analog audio processing. USB is digital, is going to involve making a digital conversion. So, for example, my XLR microphone is plugged into the Zoom H6. That is all. The recording that is happening on the H6 right now is as raw as it gets. It is my voice hitting the microphone going to an SD card. But that's all analog up until you get to it, converting that to digital bits on the SD card, micro SD card there. The USB cable, however, is converting me to digital so that it goes into Zoom, and then Mike can hear me and yada yada, so on and so forth. But XLR is the only way to hook up a lot of professional microphones. There's also monitors, as well as speakers and what you call these speakers, Mike? Like, they're not monitors, but like concert type speakers. That are powered by XLR.
Live speakers. I don't know what they're officially called. Yeah,
I don't either. But in those instances, like, that is what XLR is for. And in a lot of cases, think a live concert, for example. Oftentimes, everything you're hearing is analog at that point, because the singer or performer or the drum kit is mic'd up. That mic is going XLR into a board, which is then pushing that audio out of, a set of house speakers, which are also XLR connected, right? So that's all analog audio. It is the most basic that you can get. Also, they're not, oftentimes when it comes to doing multi-mic setups, multiple USB mics are not going to work for you. So if you need more than one microphone, it's not going to work in a lot of instances. You can use tools like Loopback or whatever to kind of hack it together, but in general, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So XLR, I don't think is going anywhere. I personally choose XLR over USB because I'm going to say for several reasons. Number one, I feel like there are much better quality microphones that are XLR over a lot of the USB stuff that used to be out there. USB mics have come a long way at this point now, but there are also some USB mics out there that, for me at least, are not an option. For example, there's a Shure mic that I really like that is a USB mic, and I would buy this mic and let it be my travel microphone for sure. But it has a touch panel on it for controlling your volume and mute. Right. I don't, and controlling your gain. No, I can't touch that. This XLR mic, I put it on a stand, I plug a cable into it, and I plug the other internet cable into a device that accepts it, and now I have audio. When it comes to the ground loop hum thing, that can happen in a lot of ways. I would imagine to certain extents, if you were doing something very wrong or your wiring was very crazy, you could even have that happen with a USB mic. But really, it comes down to just being careful about being aware of the issue and how you lay your cables out. It's very similar to, the reason cable management systems exist. Right, because you don't want a lot of cables tangled up touching each other anyway, because you don't know what'll happen.
Yep.
Then, if lightning strikes this thing, it may not get to that thing unless you had those two wires touching, and now you just lost two devices. So that's kind of my reasoning for it. A lot of people are doing, when it comes to podcasting, you don't have to have this whole XLR setup. You can do it with a USB mic, and USB mics are good, especially now. The Audio Technica stuff has been solid for the past good 10 years, I'll say, at least, because that's when I think I got my first Audio Technica 2100, not the X. This is prior to the X existing, prior to USB-C even existing. It's a decent microphone. It wasn't the best in the world, but it's a decent all-around microphone. But what you don't get a lot of, you're seeing a lot of that now with some USB mics where you're getting like USB mics that are large diaphragm condensers, but then you got to have a decent room for that. Most USB mics that are good for podcasting are dynamic. A lot of those, at least a lot of the ones I've used, you have to be closer on the microphone than I tend to be, because right now I'm sitting back here. You may get a little room noise off of me, but not as bad as you would if I were on a different style of mic.
Yes.
But I just prefer the types of microphones which are not necessarily going to be possible, or nobody's building them, or I don't know about them in the USB space, and also more flexibility. So in the eventuality that I have to, or Michael has to, because Michael has on its way to him a Zoom H6 that he can use for backup recordings.
Right. And an audio interface. And it'll be interesting to see if using that as an audio interface
with the
gives
mixer
a cleaner sound from the board.
Yeah, I'm curious about that too. But let me lay out an eventuality for you. Now, I could take my USB mic, but in my laptop bag, in my briefcase bag here, I have the Shure Beta 87A, a small XLR cable, a small mic stand, and the Zoom H4. And that is what will go with me the next time I go to Georgia, which might be next weekend. However, I could take a USB mic and just plug that in and take the mic stand, and that would be cool. Unless, for some reason, the internet is crappy. And me and Mike actually ran into this while I was at Gentry.
Yeah, we did.
Because I had to use the phone to try to connect to you through whatever we were using. I think it might have been Clean Feed at the time. And the internet was terrible. But what I could do always with the XLR mic that wouldn't be as easy to do in a situation where I don't have a laptop, especially, is I can plug my XLR mic into the Zoom recorder and record myself locally and just have a phone conversation with Mike, and then get my audio recording to him by connecting that device to the phone, copying that file over and sending it to him.
We never did that, but it was optional. Like we could.
Yeah, well, I couldn't have done it back then when we had that problem, because I didn't actually have the Zoom yet.
Right.
I don't think the Zooms are out yet. But yeah, that is always a fallback. That's something that I have an option for. But I recently listened to a member special for ATP, the Accidental Tech Podcast. And it was about the making of the show. And they went through this whole thing about how they make the show. It was very detailed, like who builds out the notes, the internal notes that they use for the show, how they go about, moving stuff around, recording the show, what gear they use, how the editing process goes. Very thorough, very detailed. One thing that struck me is, like, me and Mike have some division of labor to a certain extent. I probably should start picking up more of the building of the show topics, since Mike does all the editing. But as a part of that conversation, so there's 3 hosts on that show. There's Marco Arment, who makes Overcast. There is Casey Liss, who makes a couple of apps, none of which I use because they're mostly not apps that I need. And there's John Syracuse, who to me is most famous in my mind, or I know him from the Mac OS 10 reviews he used to write for Ars Technica. That's where I first encountered his name. So 2 of the 3 hosts have XLR mics, and one's using the, side note. So one is using the Sound Devices Mix Pre 2, USB Pre 2, and one is using the Sound Devices Mix Pre 3, which would be a great interface, except it's touchscreen and it doesn't dock. So, and all of that gear, right? They got all that stuff. The 3rd host, who happens to be Syracuse, who is the oldest of the guys, not the younger, is just using the USB Shure mic that they don't even make anymore. I think it's Shure, that they don't even make anymore. And that's the mic he's been using since he started podcasting, 12 to 15 years ago, however long ago it was.
Right.
Pretty much. And he said he's tried, XLR stuff, and he's like, but I just sound better on this mic. So in some instances, you're going to have to use XLR. If you're doing certain types of things, like if you're doing events that Michael is getting into doing, you're going to need XLR, because that's the only way to get audio routed in the way that you need to get it routed in that type of environment. But if you're sitting down thinking about doing a podcast, you can grab a decent USB mic and get it done with that. And, at this point, John is primarily living, as far as I know, is coming off his podcast that he does. that show and a couple of, I think he does at least one other show that is ad supported and also has a member tier. So he's retired from his day job a couple of years ago now, I think. So he's making a living at podcasting.
There you go.
With a USB mic.
Or he's just doing it because he likes to do it and doesn't make money.
He's doing it because he likes doing it, but he's also making money at doing the thing. Which also you can go to technicallyworking.show and support us through the tip jar. Just saying. But thanks, Scout, for sending in the email. If you want to email us, again, that address is feedback@technicallyworking.show. And I want to wish Scout the best on his journey to these degrees. Again, we didn't, get too in depth about what he wrote in the email because I'm not sure how much of that information he has out there publicly or wants to be public. But and that's also a good thing. If you email us and you say something to us and you want it to remain private or not come into the show, please mention that. I don't think we have a problem with Scout's overall email being in the show because that's how we tend to respond to Scout when he emails us.
It's just been a little while, so thank you.
Just bringing it to the show. He's catching up on episodes. That was also mentioned.
There you go.
But he's catching up on his pods.
Hey.
Man, look, this VO F7 shortcut is amazing.
It is. It's great, isn't it? Because then you can just get the time and you don't have to hear the date. You don't realize how much the date slows you down.
It's the date, but it's also the battery level and the signal strength of my Wi-Fi, because I've been testing that as I move around the house with this laptop, and that's kind of what went ahead and pushed me into getting. I didn't have to. It wouldn't have been the end of the world if I didn't get one, but I went ahead and picked up another access point for the unified system. So I'm going to move the current one where it is to one side of the house, and that's mostly so that my smart home stuff will stay intact, because I'm getting ready to put up cameras outside. Reolink is the company I've gone with for my cameras, my doorbell.
Jacob's all about Aqara, just so you know. He really likes the Aqara stuff.
Yeah, I have some Aqara stuff. Like I have a Aqara doorbell that's probably going to go over here on the garage.
Yeah.
The problem for me
is the lack of HomeKit integration, or is it?
No, they actually just the other way around. Like Reolink does not support HomeKit directly. You have to use something like Scripted or Homebridge to get that into HomeKit. No, the primary thing is they don't have wired cameras. And see, Reolink sells a lot of power over Ethernet cameras that will feed back into a internet recording device. So I will have actual footage. Even at least the wireless camera I have in a couple of their models of their wireless cameras will also feed data back into that network in VR. Network recording device. That's not what that stands for. NVR? Network video recorder. Yeah, there we go. I knew there was something about that wasn't sounding right. So the cameras so what I currently have right now from Reolink, for anybody who's interested, is I have the power. I have their doorbell. I think it's 2K doorbell, whatever the latest doorbell is, but it's the power over Ethernet version. So I got to run a cable from my router all the way to the front door. Flat Ethernet cables can be your friend. To power that. That will feed back into the recorder as well. Pretty good coverage. It's about I don't remember specific numbers. I just know when I tested the camera out to make sure the doorbell actually worked with a too short Ethernet cable too. It was like, wow, it's just getting all the way over there to the side too. I was like, oh, okay, full coverage, great. The other camera that I currently have from them is a wireless camera that I have to connect up, but it came with a solar panel. So that is going up on a corner of the house, and I'm going to put the solar panel up there as well, and that will keep it powered so I don't have to take it down routinely and charge it, because that would be just another reminder for me to set that I probably wouldn't get a notification about until 2 weeks after I was supposed to do it. So that's what I have right now. But when I buy more cameras, and the only reason I haven't bought there's a couple of reasons I haven't bought a kit yet, but I'm going to eventually buy probably like a 4-pack of their Reolink, power over Ethernet 4K cameras and put those up on the house and take that wireless camera further out in the yard because I got a lot of yard. So take that further out because it has a solar panel. Just make sure I can mount it somewhere where it'll get sun and that'll stay charging and it'll watch the entrance of the driveway, for example.
There you go.
And it has two-way microphones, all that, yada, yada, yada. But I want the power over Ethernet cameras. I have not gotten up because I just got the garage actually cleaned out since they put the door up. So like it's nice. I can actually move around. I'm getting products labeled. All of this stuff is happening. So that's great. Now I don't actually have stuff under the attic access so I can get up there and kind of see what the temperature feels like up there now. Sweep around and make sure there's not any weird stuff. Mm-hmm. And put me a little table because what I want to do is run and see how far over the house it actually extends to. Because what I actually want to do here is put, if possible, put the entire networking setup up there.
Gosh.
And then just, for the things, because I can still drop it and just, drill a few discrete holes in the ceiling for Ethernet drops, like to come down for the access points. Drop one down over here in the office so I have Ethernet in here, etc. That'll make my Ethernet runs a little shorter too for me needing power over Ethernet for certain things.
Yep.
But I do have some Aqara gear. So I have the Aqara, what is it? The U200, I think, or U250, one of those, door lock, retrofit door lock. Mm-hmm. So that is on the garage, on the door that, comes out of the house into the garage. That is on that door. And that's because before we had a garage door, that was the door we always used to come in and out of the house. It has a nice physical keypad that goes on the outside next to the door. It's not a part of the lock. And that just retrofits. So it goes over the inside of you take off the back plate with the little thumb thing, on the door and put this over it. But you keep your original deadbolt on the outside. So still works with a key. But a nice physical keypad with physical buttons and fingerprint access. It apparently also does home key so you can tap your watch or whatever. Huh. And then I do have a ton of Aqara stuff for sensors. So my motion sensors that I have up on the outside of the house that trigger my smart floodlights are Aqara. The water leak sensors I have are from Aqara. The door and window sensors I have are from Aqara. So I have a lot of Aqara stuff.
Man,
cameras don't quite.
We should dedicate a whole episode just talking about your smart home because you're a hell of a lot more into smart home stuff than I am. And I find that to be very ironic.
Well, it's because partially, you can't decide which ecosystem you want to be in.
I know. I got a lot.
In about 3 more months, it's going to be, we're going back to Alexa.
Hey, I can't talk about that.
Because although I don't know, no, because you've done this before. You will either sell or give away the HomePods, then buy new Google speakers or something, then be in the Google ecosystem. It was like, well, none of this stuff I built works with that now.
Yeah, we should just stick with home because we're always going to come back to Apple.
So I'm going to drop this here as a pin because we will come back and discuss this. And it came up in your conversation with JJ, which is Home Assistant. Mm-hmm. So I'm actually going to set up Home Assistant sometime in the new year. Because one apparently has gotten better. One reason I didn't do it years ago is because I did want to do HomeKit. And I'm thinking about simplicity for other people in the house too. It's not just me. Although Apple doesn't always make that as simple. Do you hear the rain now?
I do now.
Okay. Hear that cans? Tick, tick, tick. Like, who the hell
sure do.
Can out here, man. All right. So we will talk about Home Assistant because I am going to set that up at some point. Probably going with the Home Assistant yellow. Now I am going to mention some names out here, but anybody else that may have some information, I would very much appreciate it. Doug, if you know anybody that actually has a HomeKit yellow standard, so before you had to, the version before was out now, where I have to go my own Raspberry Pi module to drop in there. Would appreciate a shout out. Nobody tell me to go search eBay. I did this already.
That's a rabbit hole.
Well, it's not so much as a rabbit hole, it's that they're charging too much. Like I can pay for a HomeKit yellow without buy it from them now for like $120 and then just buy a Raspberry Pi compute module, which I think that's the one that's like $10 or $5 or something.
Right. And then just drop that in there.
And just drop that in where it's supposed to go. I just, kind of don't want to do it. And I'm going for yellow specifically for anybody asking, because it does already have like Zigbee and all of that stuff in it. And apparently a software update is going to give it the thread. So I won't have to buy any external adapters to have it work as a thread router. But we'll get into the Home Assistant stuff a little bit more at some point. Because one, I barely know anything about it because I basically ignored it when I first looked at it. It was like, oh, it looks like I'll be running two entirely separate pieces of software environments for home stuff, and I wasn't trying to do that. So, but now it looks like they have tighter integration with actual Apple HomeKit as well. So it's interesting, and it might be some different avenues to better automations above and beyond what Apple allows you to do. But yeah, we should do a HomeKit show, for sure, or do a smart home show. So send in your requests. We're not going to promise when we'll do it, but we will do it. Cause Mike probably has questions about stuff he should buy. And there's also questions I have for Mike about stuff he is currently using or has previously used. So, if you have HomeKit or smart home, suggestions, send an email to feedback@technicallyworking.show. It's funny how the rain stopped just as I'm trying to wrap up the show, so we won't have the rain in the show. But unless you had something else, Mike, because otherwise we'll be here for another 45 minutes if we keep going.
Yep, I think we're good. So go ahead and roll into the wrap up.
All right. I want to thank everybody for listening again, as usual. I want to thank JJ because I wasn't here to actually thank JJ. And I think when I did speak to JJ a couple of times over the past couple of weeks, I neglected to say thank you for being on my show. So thanks, man. We appreciate it. Thank you to everybody who listens. We appreciate it. Tell a friend. That should have been that. Look, easy Christmas gift. If you forgot somebody's holiday gift of whatever you celebrate, an easy thing to give them is, a new subscription to Technically Working. Just grab their phone or drop them the link, drop them a link from Overcast or Pocket Cast or
Castro.
Thank you. I was trying to remember the one you were using, and Insta something kept coming up, and I was like, I know that's not right.
Yeah. I mean, you can give people New Year's gifts, can't you? I don't expect a New Year's gift from me, but
want to. So tell a friend is what I'm saying about the show. If you think they would enjoy the content, we appreciate it. Thanks to all our new listeners that we have gotten. Appreciate the interactions on Mona. Nope, that's not what it's called. Mastodon. I'm interacting.
See, he's out of practice too.
Special thanks as always. We truly appreciate it because you can spend your money anywhere, but you choose to spend some amount of it with us through the tip jar. So thank you to our tip jar subscribers. You can get in touch with us in a few different ways. We said the email address a bunch of times, but it's feedback@technicallyworking.show. Don't add anything else after that W, then it won't work. So just .show. That's it. We're done. You can follow him on Mastodon. He is Payon, Payown, at dragonscave.space. That is DRAGONSCAVE.space. I am Damashe, DAMASHE, at technically.social. Yeah, I finally did it.
I like that. And you did it before the end of the year, which there was some doubt by me that you were going to get it done by then.
Yeah,
so,
I know.
Great job.
But it was super easy. It's hosted over on masto.host for anybody interested. That was the easiest way to go. Have Elasticsearch. I don't know if Michael is going to move, although I have thought about making an account for the show maybe. But
what would it be? Show at technically.social? Actually?
No, TW is what I thought.
TW at technically.social. Huh. Yeah.
But that doesn't exist yet. We haven't made a decision.
Damashe at technically.social right now.
Yeah, but that's me. Damashe at technically.social. The hashtag technically working, which I just found out like a super easy way to follow that if you're using Mona. You can just follow a hashtag. Like it's crazy easy. Well, I think what I did is saved it as a search the first time. I didn't realize you could just follow a hashtag.
Right.
So I did the old Twitter thing and we're like, oh, I'm going to save this hashtag as a custom search.
Yeah.
That's how I approached it because I was, thinking like Twitter. But anyway, hashtag technically working. Capitalize your T and W, please, and thank you. This has been episode 91. This will be the last episode of 2024. And
we're not going to hint at anything for 2025 because we don't know what's happening.
We have no idea what's going to happen at all. All I can tell you is just stick together and be nice to each other. Be kind to each other when you can.